Hey everyone, this is going to be a very, very low effort video because if I keep overthinking it, it's never going to happen. Today we are talking about my shower talk version of Peace Talks. My shower talk version, oh my gosh. This is basically my shower thoughts version of Peace Talks, the things that sort of stood out to me and that I'm going to be keeping in mind as I reread Battleground before the next book comes out in less than a week. First thought is that the whole battle with the corner hounds seems very much like a tutorial part in a video game, and let me explain. Basically, Eb appears out of nowhere. He's following Harry because Harry's ruining his life and he has to stop him. And then you get these corner hound things, which if you know Lovecraft, which I don't, but I get on the internet every once in a while, only come around when there's a time traveler who needs to get hunted. And so Eb's like, okay, Harry, it's time that you learn how to deal with these things. And we're going to take you to a parking deck where there's just one car in the very bottom and there's no civilians around that can get hurt. And you're just going to learn how to banish these corner hounds because you're starborn and that means you're important. And it seems very contrived, like very obviously Eb has a lot of power. And this is also like one of those sections where you realize just how powerful this guy is and how he's scary, and also kind of makes me think that he might be like Cal or some other like big bad villain that just like stabs Harry in the heart or something. But basically Eb just like throws up a shield and pretends that this is hard long enough for Harry to like find the heart of the cards or something and figure out how to use the gas in the truck, set the fire in order to weaken these hounds, because apparently magical fire just isn't good enough. It doesn't do the job done. You need real life, 100% genuine fire. This entire book is Eb just being desperate and trying to keep Harry away from like doing Harry things. And he arrives like in the nick of time in different situations, or not so the nick of time, but he just like appears randomly and you think it's through a veil, but you could have some wibbly wobbly timey-wimey stuff going on. We haven't seen this guy since Chichen Itza, and he's all like, Harry, you have to stop yourself from getting kicked out of the council. And then, Harry, you've got to stop messing with Justine and these vampires, like they're going to hurt you. And it's like, I know better, I know how they are, and blah, blah, blah. And he can't quite tell Harry what's going on because this is the same damn thing Harry does to his friends all the time. It's very, very like possible that Eb is time traveling because something that happens in the future books just turns out to be a complete disaster. Maybe this also is like Harry going off the deep end and becoming Cal, or becoming like something really bad. Or maybe Lara makes good on her threats near the end of the book to pay him back for making her feel small. And we'll talk about that later. A lot of people, and this is going into Battleground a little bit, point out how calm that Eb was at the beginning of Battleground on the battlements when everybody's getting ready for the big battle to start. And when I read that scene, I didn't get that. I think that it's the same Eb. It's not some time-traveling alternate universe Ebenezer that's coming back and getting all desperate with Harry. Because in that scene, it talks about how Eb like turns to granite and is very like stone cold, we're done talking. After Harry, like, before getting, you know, like, fake bye-byed. All hail the algorithm. The next thing I realized is that if you haven't read the short story with Carlos and Molly, a lot of this book doesn't make sense. And you're just like, why is Carlos being a jerk all of a sudden? And Carlos is very clearly, like, still hurt from when he tried to get with Molly and her mantle basically, like, whammied him. I think Harry's just sticking his foot in his mouth by being like, just because your love life sucks doesn't mean I can't have a good one. Ho, ho, ho. And it's like, dude, like, you have no idea what's going on. And he says that he has no idea what's going on, but he still does stupid Harry things by being a jerk face. And I think that that's sort of the thing that starts to push Carlos away, because it seems that your friend and mentor has now gone evil Winter Night thing and think like, oh, his Winter Lady would have told him about this and he's still like belittling me about it. When really, like, Harry just has no idea what's going on because it's Harry and he usually doesn't have any idea of what's going on. But yeah, like, I hate seeing friends fight, and I hate this whole like fallout between Carlos and Dresden, and that just makes the end of Battleground like that much worse. And we also have some foreshadowing that I didn't notice until I had reread Peace Talks and then read the short story Aftermath, which is from Karen Murphy's perspective, literally 2 hours after the end of Changes. When she comes back to the boat, realizes that Harry's gone bye-bye, and has to go help Will Borden rescue Georgia and one of the other alphas who's been kidnapped by the Fomor. But at the end of that short story, Guard is like, hey, you did Marcone a favor. He can help you get your job back. And Murphy's like, nah, he's going to hold that over my head forever. I'll pass. And then Guard offers Murphy a job working for Vaterung. And Murphy's like, I'm not going to do that because then I'd still end up working for jerks like Marcone. And basically Guard like shows respect to Murphy as a hero, and Murphy has her in with the Valkyries that she's going to end up cashing in willingly or not during Battleground. And then there's the whole thing with Freydis, I forget what her name is exactly. Freydis has a crush on Murphy and wants to get with her, and Freydis is a Valkyrie, and if I'm saying this wrong, like tell me in the comments, let's learn something and you get to make fun of me. It's a win-win. But she kind of has a thing for Murphy, and it makes Murphy very uncomfortable, but in a way, like, since she's a Valkyrie, I think that that means that she's also like a chooser of the slain. I think that that's why Guard had that like weird look when Michael got injured and almost went bye-bye for good. And so in a way, Murphy was one of the slain that was chosen. And at the beginning of Battleground, there's this scene after the whole Kraken thing where Molly just like stares out into the distance and her face is like stone cold and unreadable. And she's just like, I see angels of death flying over the city and nobody else can see them. And so like those are two big signs of what was going to happen to Murphy later on and sort of like where she was going to go after that, combined with the whole like aftermath short story, which basically told us what could and probably would happen. It was like right in front of my face the whole time, and I still bawled like a baby when it happened. And finally, the whole stuff with Lara. Lara definitely thinks that Dresden is a lot smarter and knows how to play the game better than he actually does. Or at least Dresden's so good at the game that he doesn't realize that he's being the baddie, manipulative guy. And it's adorable. But also, there's some other stuff going on, and we're gonna go talk about Freydis again for a second, and her wanting to get with Murphy and offering, like, asking her on a date or whatever, and then being like, it's okay if I share you with Dresden. So I feel like that's sort of Lara's way of like breaking up couples so that she can manipulate them and do what she will with each person as she sees fit. I also think that this might be why Butters and Andy and Marcy are a thing. And I'm not trying to be like judgmental or anything, like life is short, you do you. But just like within the whole like magic structure in this book series and sort of like how the like love protection thing works, it would be very smart for the White Court to do that in order to further their agenda. But also there's a line in Peace Talks where I think it's Murphy tells Dresden, and referring to Lara, how she reacts to the proposal will tell you everything. And she's not talking about the proposal that happens in Battleground, or at least she doesn't know that she's talking about that. But I feel like that's kind of an Easter egg that gets dropped later on where I need to like watch Lara's expression. Because I think I remember her being kind of shocked when Mab proposed marriage to the two of them in order to cement that union, or that alliance between Winter and the White Court. And then you have the whole Harry makes Lara feel weak and helpless on Demon Reach. And I mean, to be fair, she was. Harry's the warden of Demon Reach. He has a huge advantage. And I don't think that anybody, like, in that situation at least, understands just how much of an advantage he had. Like, I don't think Harry really understood until he had them up to their necks in dirt and stuff. And was like, calm down and I'll let you go free, but I'm really like, just don't hurt me and we're good. And then she's like, he's manipulating me. He's played the game. He's used his own brother as a pawn. And Harry's like, I'm not smart enough to do that. I mean, he doesn't think it's the right thing to do either, but Lara sees the world through a certain worldview, and it's helped her to survive for however long she's been around in the White Court. And she even said that it's good for the White Court to have the strongest leader possible. And so her being really like ruthless and good at the game and conniving is one, good for her survival, but also good for the survival of her court. But yeah, Harry made Lara feel helpless, and she said that she wanted to settle the score after this whole like Battleground stuff was over. And on top of that, Harry describes it as being just like when he made Bianca feel small. And look how that turned out. Harry ended up, you know, wiping out the Red Court vampires and changes, and it started this whole like mess. And I don't know if Lara is going to be like Bianca, where she's just like blinded by her feelings and her pettiness and just like wanting to settle the score for that like one transgression that Harry didn't even really know that he was doing. Are we going to get like a complete throwdown like that where Lara tries to destroy Harry? Is this going to be something that they have to resolve during 12 months when they go on their dates? I don't know, but that's something that as I reread Battleground, or rather re-listen to it on my commute, that I'm going to be paying really close attention to. All right, this was my low effort shower thoughts-esque take on Peace Talks. It's a great book. Y'all deserved a way better deep dive into this with a lot more stuff. But I'm running out of time before the next book comes out, and I still have one more to read. So that's what we get right now. I am super excited for the new book, 12 Months to come out. I have a copy that's signed by Jim Butcher, and forgive me, I forgot what his name is, but I really respect his work. That sounded terrible. The guy who illustrated the cover, he's done a lot of Brandon Sanderson stuff, and I will probably just have that copy to look at and be happy I owned to go with my other signed copies of Peace Talks and Battleground. Actually, I bought paperback copies of those two books so I could throw them in my suitcase and not be mad when like little damaged stuff that comes from when you actually read your books happens. And I might go ahead and buy another copy to read and keep the signed copy just because it's really nice to have. My dog really wants me to pet him. So yeah, tell me in the comments which one of these you thought was a good idea, which ones you disagree with. If there's any other thing in Peace Talks that really stood out to you, let's talk about it in the comments, and I'll talk to everyone later. Bye.